while you had taught several seminars, and I remember we did go off that first couple months there at the end of '97 when I moved in September of '97, and I think pretty immediately, we were over in Oahu teaching a Tantra seminar. So we were doing weekend seminars back in those days, and the first Tantra teacher certification program was done here at the Temple of Tantra here
Yeah,
in Maui, Hawaii, and it was facilitated, directed by Charles Muir, and you were his assistant.
that's right.
So do you want to say a little bit about how you decided, or what happened when you branched off from being his co-teacher to teaching your own certification program?
Well, just that I have a focus on the spiritual and bringing the spiritual into Tantra at the same time as celebrating the sexual. And Charles does that in his unique way, and I do it in my unique way. But since I've been working with Hal and Sidra Stone, they're my teachers, I'm particularly aware of what's called the energy of the chakras. And all chakra tantra, the really satisfying way that you can transcend your separate self sense and feel another person, means that you know how to open and let other people into every one of your energy centers, so your vulnerable children can touch, so your sensual parts of course can touch, and you're mutually empowering each other and feeling the love going back and forth, and such communication and sharing of visions that you transcend your separate self senses and are able to do that with another person or persons or with the universe, and it puts you in contact with the entire holographic universe and the light of the creator of all that runs through everything. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that was the birth of it's just like religion, and it's just used to be the Catholic Church, and now there's all these different branches. So it's a natural evolution. And so Charles was living here the first 5 years, and we started. Sasha and I met each other. We fell madly, passionately, deeply in love, and we're very much in love 15 years later. So Tantra does work, by the way.
Works for us.
And Kiss will, not Kiss, what's his name? Um, the
Sting?
Sting, yeah. Why are we calling him Kiss? Sting. Kiss,
You want to kiss Sting?
No, no. Anyway, Sting will tell you, he's got a very successful 25, 30-year marriage, that Tantra really does work, especially when you do the communications part of it, and you learn how to work through the difficulties of a relationship, which is part of the voice dialogue.
Oh, the
part of
difficulties are the
Tantra.
best part. That's where you can learn about the parts of yourself that are underdeveloped, and you can get it in exaggerated form from whoever you're relating to.
Right. You see your disowned self, and that's the part that you over admire, or you react to negatively. And I think people mostly notice their disowned selves first by what turns them off about other people, what they don't like, and then they might come in with oh, I'm overly admiring somebody. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to the subject at hand, which is
Okay, so here it is. You've come into this Tantra school, and there's some people you know, and there's some people you don't know. And, if you were a camera, what would you see? What does it look like? What is Tantra school?
Well, in Tantra school, as taught by Janet and Sasha Lesson,
Yeah, what do you see, camera?
camera. Well, the primary teacher is Dr. Sasha Lesson, and I, Janet, tend to co-facilitate the process. And we have a book
Oh, yeah.
which has
Yeah, when
11.
you come up this when you park your car and get
Oh, when you
out.
park your car and get out,
Yeah.
you're coming. Well, the parking lot is way down below, and you're coming up a gradual hill with a waterfall, natural waterfall and stream that runs through the property. And there's the moment you turn the corner from the parking lot, you start getting into this incredible vegetation, these trees that tower over your head. And you, Sasha, Dr. Listen, planted all this stuff 30, 4 years ago, and there's some of it was here, a couple trees were here, but some of these trees, it's amazing how fast things grow in the Maui tropical jungle. So then you come up this walkway, this path that is partially paved, and part of it is these stones that climb the mountains that you actually, you created those stones yourself, right? And
Yes.
yeah, so this is all
So it's really
the
interesting.
personal
Things grow
touch here.
better and bigger in Maui than any place. It's like this geological report. This is the most amazing growth place in the world.
In the world, yes. And right behind the temple here, where we are sitting, broadcasting live, is the wettest spot on earth. The wettest, it used to be Kauai about 3 to 6 months ago. It shifted over here to, something happened, the earth shift happened. So now this is the wettest spot in the world. And we are right at the foothills of this place. Now the house, there's several little buildings and a little with a central courtyard, and the path goes up the center of it, and the main house is on the left-hand side of the path, and it looks like kind of like a ski chalet with a big deck out in front, and you come up the steps and in the door, and then there's this huge 35-foot kind of living room. And it's got vaulted ceilings, and there's no little to no furniture. There's just a couple tables and mostly futons and pillows.
What do the people do as they come in? What do you notice?
I just noticed that they go, wow, look at this, and then there's a view. You go over to it has a ski chalet window, so you go over to the south side of the building, and there you look out the windows, and there you see Haleakala. Well, sometimes you can't see it if there's clouds, but Haleakala is the second oldest volcano here in Maui, and it's sometimes shrouded by a necklace of clouds, and sometimes you can't see its head, and sometimes it's clear. And then to your left, as you're looking out the window, which is the southeast exposure, is the Kahului Harbor. And you can see planes coming in, and you can see, if you look really...
What do you see in the room? Who's there? What kind of people are there?
I just wanted to say you can see the windsurfers at Ho'okipa, and then you tend to go around and look at who's here. And if you're first, there might be nobody here, but if you're arriving late, you might arrive to a circle of people who have already gathered, and they're sitting in pillows, and they're facing towards the teachers.
Right, and so the first things that we do are part of the communication lesson that we gave in an earlier workshop, where we have people do some relating exercises, get to know one another, and they do things like role playing, which is really fun. You get somebody new, you talk to them for a while, and then you become them, and all that stuff. There's all these lessons, and what happens is you start to relate to people and really know each other well, real fast. And
well, before we get to the exact lessons, we tend to do a check-in, right? And
absolutely,
everybody shares a couple minutes about who they are, whether they're in relationship or not, if they are in relationship or seeking relationships, what style. We're living in a very complex world, and it's not just heterosexual monogamy anymore. So some people are heterosexual and monogamous, but some people are bisexual or polyamorous or gay or lesbian, or we've even had a couple transgendered, post-op, pre-op. We have people that are monogamous, and then we have people that want to have multiple relationships, and even within that, we've got people that identify as polyamorous, and some people are into the BDSM field, some people are swingers. And so we kind of set the ground in the introduction about who you are and what you're looking for in life, and a little bit of your tantric background. Have you studied tantra before? If so, who did you study with them? Or who do you study with? I'm sorry. And then we help each person get to know each other by the next exercise, which is the voice, the active listening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we really want to put this all in the context of that what we're talking about is weaving, and that we're using Tantra in this sense that's really, everybody understands that what this is all about is learning how to selectively be the chooser of how open and closed they allow themselves to be with other people, and which of their energy systems they're opening or closing to each other. And so one of the first things we teach is this simple thing. We have a whole lesson about this already recorded on active listening, saying in your own words what you heard the other person saying, and finding out if you got it right, asking, empathizing with the feelings, and sharing behavioral requests. How when you learned how to communicate, that's what it really comes down to. So we taught this in the class. What did it give you to have this tool?
Well, it's an amazing tool. Active listening, the history of it goes back to what, the 40s or the 50s. It was created by, who was it? Who was
Carl
it?
Rogers.
Carl Rogers, and it's still the basis of other type of communication styles, like nonviolent communications is based in active listening. Many different other communication styles are based in this active listening, and we go back to the core because active listening is as important now as it was then, and it's pretty simple. It's not as complex as nonviolent communications, and that's what we want to do. We start simple. So when you get into what I learned from active listening is that if you get into uh, a situation where it's obvious that you're miscommunicating, you're missing the communication with each other, you slow it down and you use active listening. And active listening is valuable for like anybody. If you're in a work field, especially if something like that's gonna, maybe somebody will get hurt, so you want to say, tell me what you heard, make sure they got the directions, have people repeat, kind of paraphrase what you're saying and slow it down. So active listening is very good for slowing things down because that's what Tantra is about. It's about slowing things down.
Yeah, and listening isn't just about saying the words. You say you also listen to what I hear you sighing, and I see you slumping or whatever. That's part of active listening too.
Right,
Giving
and
feedback.
very paying attention to the body language.
Yeah.
And then you repeat back at a certain point in active listening after each person feels a little bit complete in the exchange of the dialogue. Oh, what you gathered, what you gleaned from it, your understanding, the other person's logic. And I think that was a big lesson for me, is because, men are from Mars and women from Venus, our logic tends to be very different, and that might be a major way that men and women especially are missing each other, and they think that they're on the same page, but when you do active listening, and especially getting down to the logic, you understand that they're not getting it, and so you help.
Yeah, you need to, by getting it. It isn't just that they understand, but we all need to be felt. Active listening demands of the other person, I want you to put yourself in my place and feel what it's like to be me. And if you do that, then we can go on to the next thing. But I want you to feel what it's like to be me in this situation.
Yeah,
and in return, I'll be willing to feel what it's like to be you.
Yeah, we could only step in each other's shoes and identify with the apparent other and feel each other. We wouldn't have war in this world, so that we can at very least stop the war between two people.
What was that?
People.
If some gift to get he gives to see ourselves as others see us. Some Scotch poem.
Scotch poem. I don't know it, but that's very cute, honey. So, there's 4 parts to it, or whatever. The first part is kind of the paraphrasing, and the second part is the logic. You understanding what their points are, and then of course the third part is the empathy, which is what nonviolent communications takes, and does a lot with. But this very simple structure of active listening is very easy to integrate into your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're missing each other, you request for it by name. hey, honey, let's do some active listening right now. Sometimes you're mad, hey, we got to do some active listening.
Okay, so in Tantra school, we're